Hello, everyone, and welcome to my review of Kingdom Chapter 648, The King's Problem. So, this chapter is a very dialogue heavy chapter, as to be expected, because this is the chapter where we get the conclusion to the rivalry between Sei and Ryofui. This is a rivalry that has been in the series for a long time. In universe, it's 10 years. Out of universe, it's probably been for about as long as well. And this is really the conclusion of one of the best rivalries we've had. Ryofui is, in my opinion, one of the best antagonists alongside Riboku that this franchise has ever had. And so seeing the conclusion to this rivalry is very somber, but at the same time, it was very appropriate and handled very well. And I really like how Hara just handled the dialogue and all the points that the two sides made leading into this final conversation. And so, with that out of the way, I want to talk about the chapter. So to start out, we find out in the middle of the night that Sei had canceled the morning court and traveled to Canaan without the knowledge of Mr. Shi and Shabon-kun. I personally found the panel of Shabon-kun and Mr. Shi freaking out as they find out that Sei canceled the morning court to be quite funny. Seeing that lone janitor just sweeping the courtroom, just being like, you didn't know that the king left? He canceled everything, and them freaking out. I can only imagine in his mind how much he thinks he's probably gonna die for this, but I just found it quite funny. But moving on to the meat of the chapter, we see that Sei and Ryofui initially have a very cordial conversation at Canaan. We see that Ryofui has of course been keeping tabs on all of the events that have happened since he's been ousted from the royal court, most notably being the Gyo campaign. We also see that Sei has not underestimated Ryofui at all. Even though he did leave without telling his advisors, he brought a very formidable escort in the form of the royal army from Kanyu. I imagine that this army would raise all types of hell inside of Canaan if anything was to happen to Sei, and both Ryofui and Sei know this, so I think it was very good on Sei and shows that even though he may come off cross as the naive ruler of Qin, he's actually a very formidable foe and he does not underestimate his opponents. Moving on, we do learn that while Canaan has become home to the numerous factions that are opposing Sei, it's actually been Ryofui that's been keeping them in check. He's been the one that's been tempering their more aggressive tendencies in wanting to start a civil war. It leads to him saying that while these groups would not be unified under him in Canaan had Sei outright killed him, a civil war or multiple civil wars with these groups would have started and it would have caused Sei numerous problems, which will move on into Ryofui's big point. How can Sei expect to unify all of China when he can barely unify all of Qin? Sei really does believe that he can unify all of China under one banner, but Ryofui very staunchly disagrees with that to his very core. And who can blame him? Ryofui is far older than Sei, and he's clawed his way to the position that he is, and he's very much seen that conflict is the way of humans. And even right now, as he's trying to stop people that oppose Sei, even though he himself opposes Sei, he's trying to stop people from going for his head, which just shows right there that if Sei was to truly unify all of China, it may have only be temporary, because just as Ryofui is trying to stop these people within Qin, how many different factions all across China would try to go for his head after he unifies all of China? It would be far more than the ones inside of Qin, and there's not enough Ryofuis in all of China to prevent them from outright causing a civil war. So Ryofui has a point when he tries to say that Sei taking control all of China and unifying it does seem like a pipe dream. But he doesn't criticize Sei entirely. He does say that one of Sei's biggest allies is the fact that he's a kind ruler. The fact of the matter is that if Sei was a ruthless ruler, he would have executed Ryofui long ago, and that would have led to these factions not unifying, but causing various civil wars across various different times, weakening Qin overall and not letting them become a powerful state like they are today. So while Sei's kindness does allow for someone like Ryofui to gather people under his banner to oppose Sei, if not for Sei's kindness, Qin would have been weakened through numerous civil wars that probably would have left them unable to fight states like Zhao and Zhu. So it really does show that Sei does have a point in the methods to what he does. There's a method to his madness, but it's not always effective. It's not perfect. His kindness is a double-edged sword, because while letting Ryofui live allows someone like him to keep these people in check, there's not Ryofuis all across China. And if Sei does this from someone with Zhao, there's nothing stopping that person from coming back with their own force of people against Sei and wreaking havoc in a unified China. So it really shows that moving forward, Sei may have to harden his heart and tone down the kindness if he really wants to achieve his goal. Even if he does truly believe that the true nature of man is light, he has to embrace the fact that some people really aren't the light. Some people are dark, and some people will continually fight and cause conflict just because that's who they are. Ryofui does see that he has ultimately lost to Sei for now, but he believes that true victory for Sei will come from the fact of if Sei is able to successfully unify all of China. If Sei is able to successfully do that and maintain it, then Ryofui believes he will have ultimately been defeated. And he passes on his first and last piece of advice that he's ever given to Sei. And he says that he will try to calm the dissidents within Canaan, and he hopes to one day travel the unified China that Sei claims to want to lead. And that ends their meeting. And that is the last meeting we have. And I think it's probably one of the best interactions we've had between Sei and Ryofui. It clearly, in my opinion, more so than their previous discussion during the State of I campaign, I think this really shows where the two of them stand and just how much Ryofui really wants to prove his point, but not so far as to be the one like, haha, I'm right, I'm better than you, but more like, I've been around for so long and I've seen so many things, and I just believe your dream is naive. But if you truly are the one to prove me wrong, then I want you to prove your dream is right by achieving it. Which I think is probably one of the ultimate forms of respect that Ryofui could give Sei. A month later after this conversation, we learn that not much has changed, and the faction inside of Canaan has either stayed the same, if not gotten stronger. And just as Kanyu sends a letter stripping Ryofui of his power, the most alarming news of all has come down. Ryofui has died. In the 12th year of King Eisei's reign, Ryofui, his biggest rival, his longest rival, has perished via suicide. At least that's what happened in real life. In the story of Kingdom, however, Ryofui used a body double to commit suicide and flees Canaan to travel China. Most likely he's traveling just to see the world of China change as Sei tries to accomplish his dreams. And for all intents and purposes, Ryofui is dead in the story and will probably not return. In my opinion, Hara will only use him to make cameo appearances every now and then, and maybe even be revealed to be the narrator of the future. But yeah, Ryofui committed suicide. In a way, it kind of is a slap in the face to the respect that he showed Sei in the first place, i.e. in real life, but with the body double reveal, I think it's the best way for Ryofui's character to end. In the story of Kingdom, the body double allows for Ryofui to truly set himself aside and see if Sei can accomplish his dream wholeheartedly. He will no longer be trying to oppose Sei, either symbolically or physically. He is just going to travel the lands and see what will happen. And in my opinion, I think that is the best way to handle Ryofui exiting the series. I think this conversation would not have worked out well if he just went on to commit suicide a month later. I think having Ryofui travel to China and try to see the world around him change as Sei accomplishes his dream is the best way to handle this, and I really think Hara handled it well. And I think this is probably one of the better changes from real history that Hara has made to save the narrative, and I think it's really good. Overall, the writing in this chapter was very solid, and it really shows how these two powerful men and rivals are able to communicate with each other on such a deep level. In my opinion, lesser men would have already come to blows over lesser issues and would have launched themselves into the throes of civil war just to prove their ideologies better. But these two are better than that. They let their entire ideologies clash through spoken word alone. And even when they don't come to a clean conclusion, they know that the weight of their words will carry just as much weight as any successive victory or defeat on any battlefront. And I really have to give it to Hara for the fact that this writing was just top notch. I think he really truly loves these characters, and I really think he understands them on a deep level. And I think this was just a perfect, solid, dialogue-focused chapter. He didn't necessarily elongate things like how some mangaka would do. He knew that the encounter could only last about a chapter, and he let the story tell itself. And I honestly think that's probably one of the best things to take away from this. The story was able to tell itself. These characters were able to talk as if they were real people, come to conclusions as if they were real people, and in the end their actions are reflective as if they were real people. And I have nothing but praise for this chapter. Overall, I'd give this chapter a solid 8 out of 10. It was a very solid chapter. It was very good, and really demonstrates that Hara is really good at making dialogue-focused chapters in a story that's about war and action and gore. He's able to hammer home very serious ideological differences through word alone and not action. And I think that's the mark of a truly great author. Overall, it was a great chapter, and I loved it. And I hope you all stay tuned for next week when I give my chapter of Kingdom. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my social media links down below. This is Shiny Pokemon Incorporated, signing out.